This is Writing Daily. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're going to be talking about being the other. What does that mean? Well, it means that my face is sunburned. I don't know if you're watching or listening to me. And for me, I am your host, Devin Galladay. I am the editor-in-chief of In the Know Traveler and the author of the forthcoming memoir, 10,000 Miles from My Dead Father's Ashes. And I am now back from, I think was 9 days in Mexico. If you are watching me as opposed to listening to me, you'll probably notice that I'm looking a little golden. In fact, my nose is a little bit burnt, so I got a little bit of sun. It was actually raining the vast majority of the trip. Welcome, Caleb. Welcome, Robert. Good to see you both. And so I got a little bit of brownness, and I think probably one of the things that I was thinking about a lot of, because I've done an awful lot of travel writing, is sort of this idea of being the other, meaning that, and certainly we have a lot of things going on in terms of immigration in our country. And this is not a political thing. It's just kind of a practical thing in terms of when you're writing, especially travel writing. But this is true anytime when you are sort of somewhere else where it's not your thing. Like if you're writing about, as a man, if I'm writing about women's issues, really all I can do is kind of come up with some hypothesis and then try to divine information that would be useful based upon that hypothesis. And that's kind of what being the other is. And so in Mexico, I'm just simply not a Mexican. I speak a smattering of Spanish, probably even perhaps more than that. And one of the things that I could draw from is that one of the things that I could see over and over again is, whether I understood or not, it's not that I was out of the scenario, so to speak, but I wasn't exactly in it either. And by the way, like we're looking to buy a house in Mexico, probably not a permanent property, but just something like that we might be able to use as rental income and a vacation home and those kinds of things, because it's an incredible destination. But my attempts to reach out to people is challenging just because it's not my natural state. I don't understand the sort of like those really fine moments of culture that I just don't know, that I just don't understand. Perhaps the biggest being idioms, little catchphrases that people talk about that is challenging. So anyway, welcome Jane, welcome Heather, welcome Orna, and Peter, welcome. And so we're talking about sort of being the other, and it's kind of based on my trip to Mexico. So how would you write about it? How do you do that? In travel writing, and this is true, I think, of any reporting where you can't really rely on your personal expertise, you have to start answering questions about why, what, when, how, those kinds of things. And so when I come back from my trip and my experience of Mexico, and by the way, if you like what I'm doing, if this is something that is working for you, please consider hitting the like button or ask a question and say hello whenever you can. Whether you're seeing me live or not, I'm happy to talk about writing and answer questions however I can. So we're talking about being the other, and we're talking about the who, what, where, when, why, how. We answer those questions as best we can. So even though I can't necessarily say that, yes, I have an expertise at being somebody from Mexico, what I do get to do is I get to ask questions of myself and what my experience is of those kinds of things over and over and over again. And what I try to do, particularly if I'm talking about another culture or something that I can't necessarily automatically identify with, that I don't have personal experience with, I have to keep asking myself these questions because I don't want to put myself into being an authority of Mexico. As an example, I've been there probably 42 times at this point. Many, many times. I absolutely love it there. I think it's an incredible place. And by the way, welcome Babette, Michael, Brad, Melissa, and Marianne. Always great to have you guys here. And so I have to keep putting myself in the position of being the skeptic. And when I say skeptic, I'm not talking about naysaying. I'm talking about being somebody who seeks I'm trying to seek the information. So I'm trying to seek what the answers are to the culture. How do I get around well and successfully? How do I take public transportation? How do I not figuratively step on somebody else's toes? How do I continue to remain curious in places and describe those things? So I think it has more to do with reporting. When we talk about travel writing, I think frequently people get into third person, which I think is a great place to be. That means you don't have to worry about getting too much of yourself stuck into the thing, which might lead to bad information. So being the other is kind of this curious thing where you can't really claim that you fit, and at the same time, you still don't want to shy away from writing about things that you don't have the perfect expertise in. I think you get good at asking as many questions as possible. And what's even fantastic, Robert asked, why am I wearing headphones? Because sometimes I get feedback from between the microphone and the speakers on the computer. So this way I can assure you guys that you get best sound quality. And by the way, that is a really good practical tip if you are doing podcasts. I think it doesn't happen all the time, but if the mic is in the wrong position and I can't hear what's happening on this end, when I can't hear what's happening on the microphone, if I get some weird feedback or something like that, I don't know what's happening on your end. So this way I know that I can be on top of it. But getting back to being the other, I think as long as we stay curious, as long as we ask questions, especially of those around us, because one of the beauties of reporting is that you allow yourself the freedom to ask for help from other people. And I think it is a fun thing. By the way, I was also asked to be on the San Miguel Literary Sala, I think September 13th. I'm not 100% sure that I will be speaking there, but if you are going to be a continuing watcher of Writing Daily, then you'll know more about that. I expect to be reading and presenting 10,000 Miles with My Dead Father's Ashes, not only across the United States, but now in Mexico as well. So that should be a fun thing when the book launches. And so I think that's what I've got for today. As always, we remain curious and we stay from a position when we do travel writing, I think, of neutrality. In terms of allowing our readers to explore the world around them with as much freedom as possible and trudge the road for each of us. Anyway, I'm still getting over this a little bit of jet lag and a little bit of sun and a little bit of everything. So thanks for being here. And as always, if you like what we're doing, please consider hitting the like button. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow for more Writing Daily. Thanks.